Well, 6th grade, it's time for our art project. You have art project 30. And this one's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't. Just got finished with the 5th grade. That's their project, the one with the boats. I don't know if you guys remember that from last year. But my first time I've gotten a chance to do that. But here we have, one of the important things, of course, in art is to follow directions. So as you're following directions, the one thing you want to make sure you're doing is reading directions. It says secure copy paper over facial proportions, okay? And so what you're doing is what it's asking you to do is to take your paper and put it over top of the faces. Now, see if there's a face on the back side. I think there is. That's one we're supposed to be using, or maybe it's this one here. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you take your paper that you have, your sketch paper, and you put it over there, and you're going to lightly draw the outside. All right. Now this is the general face shape. Everybody's face is different in how it's shaped, and so you want to make sure in this particular case, because you're supposed to be following the directions, you're going to do this particular one here. Okay, so you have the paper in your envelope. Everybody got one. Double check to make sure, so don't say, I don't have mine, or somebody threw it away. Then you'll have to get your own paper anyway, because unless you want to wait until next week to get one from me, I'll be glad to give you another one, but you would have to wait till next week to do it. All right, and so we're going to trace this all the way around. All right, so now I've got my egg shape as it describes it. And so it says then to trace lightly trace the red and the purple lines, dividing the egg shape in half vertically and horizontally. So red and purple lines. All right, so our red is this one here, and the purple is right here. And so we'll match it back up to where it was. So it's on there, and then red and purple. Now it would be okay if you wanted to use a straight edge to do this. I don't think it's necessary because you're going to just be erasing. This is just giving us a general understanding of where the area is where we're supposed to be. And in this red line that you draw across, you really should draw these lines that are like this as well. And that's because it's going to help you place the eyes and nose and other things. So that's one of the reasons why you want to do that. All right, and then we go back and we do the third part, and it says lightly the fourth part, sorry, it says trace the short orange lines to divide the horizontal. That was the one I just did, those orange lines that are there on this part right here. All right, so I'll put my face back, and then it says trace the pink hairline. All right, now pink hairline is going to be there at the top. All right, so it's not really pink, that's actually more magenta than pink, but we'll stick with it anyway, is what they say. Magenta is somewhat pinkish. All right, so we'll trace that across, and probably, I have a feeling they're just going to have us trace everything across. So I'm just going to continue and do all of those. All right, so now I've got my general face broken into parts. Oops, I forgot one green line there. So I'll do that first and try to get it lined up again. And so we'll do this green line going across here as well. All right, so let's see. Go back to our instructions, and it says sketch small curve in the middle of a bottom green line for the end of the nose. Okay, so now I know where my green line is, the bottom of the green line for the end of my nose. And so it says to, and what I'll do here is I'm going to tear my instructions out so that I don't need my book anymore, because I think I'm pretty much done with that part. And so it says now to sketch small curve, okay, small curve in middle of bottom green line for the end of the nose. So the green line, which you can see back in the booklet, was this bottom green line, it says. All right, and it actually gives it to you here too, but you see that little curve? That's what they're talking about there. So now this is going to be, of course, bigger than what you have there, and so sketch that curve. I need to erase it. Where is it? I have it over here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to erase that part of it. All right, so we'll small curve. All right, so it looks about right. All right, and then it says sketch the longer curve on top of the blue line to mark placement of mouth opening. And so longer curve for the placement of the mouth opening. And you can see it's starting to come out like a mouth and a nose there, so that works well. All right, then we go to the back side. Then we're going to work on the eyes. It says to learn to draw eyes well, first observe them carefully, then practice drawing what you see. And so what they're talking about here, you see it starts off with what we would almost call a football shape. So they have you do lines. Now, the eyes are going to be right here. This is the line with the eyes. And so if we think of that, here are our two edges for our lines. So that's one edge and that's the other. Okay? And so with that being the case, and so you can see in comparison, this is what we're talking about. On that, you're going to take maybe draw a football shape curve on this side and on this side. All right, that's just the first part. So what they've done is they've actually changed it. The eye is not perfect shape like that. Everybody would look like aliens if that was the case. But we will take that eye, and this is the eye that is for the left eye. You know how we can tell? Because you got your little tear duct there. It's the same as that tear duct there. And so this is where our tear duct's going to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what they say, and basically we're going to kind of flatten it out. And excuse me. All right. So I will take my eye and I'm going to sort of curve it now. All right. And so now I've got this rounded part where my tear duct is on this part, and then I'm going to sort of do the same thing over here as I'm going to kind of flatten it out. So you see they have those dotted lines drawn, and what they've done is they've flattened out the eye that way. So now I've got a general idea of that part. But you see this bottom curve here comes up, and so I'm going to use this as my guide to kind of change the shape of my eye. Now it's starting to look more like an actual eye. And some of you are saying, probably Eric is saying, oh, it looks more like an alien eye now. Well, we're not done yet. And plus, I'm drawing it, so it probably isn't all that great in the first place. But the other thing that you got to do, okay, so now we've got the general shape of the eye. So I'm going to start darkening it to give me a good sense of how this is going to work. And I think one of the reasons it sort of looks like an alien eye is because this sort of looks like it's sharp over there, but it's not. And so we're going to curve it a little bit, and I guess it doesn't make a difference really. It still looks the same. All right, so we'll do this. We'll kind of give the eye some more dimension. All right, so it's got in the eye, of course, you've got the outside of the eye, which is where your eyelashes are. Maybe that will help us. And so we'll put some little eyelashes here. And then the same thing on the top. Now, on the top, your eyelashes are basically some are longer, some are shorter. In fact, should come up more like this. For girls, generally, they like longer eyelashes, depending on whether you're doing a guy or a girl, I guess. and I guess you can make the girl with longer eyelashes if that's what you're doing, if you're drawing a girl. All right, and so, but above the eye, if you notice, and you look at people's eyes, there's sort of that line. It's where the skin of the eyelid are, and so we're talking about, you know, drawing that in there to kind of give perspective to the eye itself. All right, and then so it's telling you on guideline eyes, draw football shape, modify the football shape, making the outside corners of each eye, and so we have the ability. This looks a little bit better actually now. And so then it says to draw eyelashes, add lines which give eyelids thickness. And so a little thicker here. Put some mascara on that person. Okay. And then we're going to draw a little line for where our tear duct is in here. And then, you know, shade that in a little bit. But then we will, as you can see, and let's see if I can shape this a little bit better. All right, so now we've got that part of the eye, and then it says to do the eyebrows. And so the eyebrows, you can see in perspective to the eye, and you can see there in perspective to the eye, it's a little bit further out. Okay, and so we're going to try to make it so that it has its general shape of the eye, and that's what an eyelid will do. But the hairs generally will all go in the same direction. Now sometimes we get some weird hairs that go in all kinds of directions. Once you get older, especially for a guy, you start to grow these wild hairs on your eyebrows. Mine happen to be red when they come in, and I have to clip those because they grow crazy after a while. But I think we're starting to get a good understanding here now of the eye. Now, for you guys, I'm going to draw one eye. I'll let you do that for both sides. Basically, the other side is going to be the exact opposite as far as the shape goes. All right, and then, so now this is the part. So it says lightly sketch eyebrows at the top of the green line, and so it says drawing will be colored after it is. Now I wonder if this is where my eyes were supposed to be. No, I think this is right. That looks like the right perspective. All right, and so it says how to draw the curved eyebrows defines the head's form and lends expression to the face. All right, and so you know, when you change your eyebrow, when somebody's talking to you and their eyebrows change, you kind of read something into that. Now, now the eyeball part. And so the pupil, it says lightly sketch circles for the iris and the pupil. Now the iris, of course, is the outside of the dark part of the eye. And so you want to kind of and then the iris is on the inside. All right, and you notice how they on the picture here, they have a little light in there. And that little light, basically, I'm going to draw a little outline of it to leave it empty. And that's just sort of a reflection of light is what it's showing. Now, I think one thing I did, I think I made it a little bit too big. And so I'm going to change this so that it's not quite so large. And we'll make the eye a little bit, and the bottom part of the iris is, the top part sort of disappears into the eyelid, and that's normal. And then now they have a big pupil here. Okay, the big pupil there, and then we could shade a little bit. And this is a small area. I was going to use an underhand grip, but I'm not going to worry about that now. But the pupil in the middle is usually very dark. No matter what color your eye is, the pupil is going to be the dark area. It looks pretty good. It's not too bad, although he looks a little sinister there now. Partly because there's a point at the top of his that will help a lot. All right. Now, as far as that area that was reflecting light, I'm going to erase that again. And kind of shade around it so that it looks like it's reflecting light in a sense. You don't have to do that. In fact, I think I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it like this and just a little bit lighter there. So that gives you a pretty good idea of an eyeball or an eye in itself. The only thing I might change on this is the fact that this curve should be a little bit more perfect, I guess. God created our eyes. The curves are pretty circular. They're pretty well done. All right, so now it says noses. Noses come in all shapes and sizes. Every nose has a top ridge, two sides, and a base for the nostrils. Now we've already got our base for the nostrils here, and so it says lightly sketch the top ridge and side of noses. All right, so the top ridge we're talking about in this perspective right here. So if we look at this page, and you can see the nose, what they're talking about. The top ridges are these things right here, the top ridges. Now you have some parts of it that are close to your eyes, and so, but what they're trying to get you to focus on is the bottom of the nose here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this light mark here first, but that gives me an idea of where my nose is. And so I'm going to make similar to what they have here, and so I'm going to make my edge okay, and then I'm going to make this edge here, and it's going to be pretty much the same. And now I've got my the nostrils here, and this is probably the hardest part, is creating nostrils that don't look like a bull or something like that. Okay, and so now I think I'm going to erase a little bit of this. Depending on the size of your nose or the shape of your nose, sometimes you can see a little bit of the edge of the nose or not, and that sort of just depends on the person and how they are designed by the Lord. And so I think I'm going to leave, I'm going to shade. So what I'm going to do is, now what they do, if you see here, they shading it as if the light's from there. I'm not going to worry about that right now. In fact, I think I've made my nostrils a little bit too thin. I have a little bit thicker nostrils myself. You see? And they're thick, okay? All right, and so I'm going to come out a little bit more for mine. And you can do however you want. Some of you girls would probably have smaller nostrils, generally speaking. It's just the way that God designs us. And one thing about the nostrils, it would help a lot if you don't give too much detail to it. You don't want it really dark, and you don't want them really big, because that would sort of give it more definition than you want to, because you don't want it, now you don't want it to be completely invisible, but at the same time you don't want it to be too pronounced, because if it's too pronounced, then you've got, all right, and so you see there's a pretty good nose. It's still a little small for the eyes, I think. The eyes are pretty large that I have, so I'm going to increase the size of my nose again. Now, of course, you want to try to get it in perspective as far as the eyes go. And I think that in this particular case, I may have gone too far there, but you know, you've got to decide how you want it. And I'm going to go about halfway of where I had it. And I can still see my old lines there, so I think it's going to be fine. It's not going to be too much. See, making that really dark makes it really ugly as far as the And if you notice, if you look at people, you just stare at their face. What you would notice is the shapes and the things that you don't realize until you start doing something like this and sketching them, where you see these lines and where they come into view, and the shapes and the directions of the curves of the lines and things like that. And of course, everybody has this part on their mouth that comes down. Yeah, that's going to come with the mouth part, if you can see there. They kind of put that in there with that. But I'm just putting that there for the moment, just for perspective. All right, so as far as the eyes, and the nose goes then, and then I'm just going to give a general sense of where it is, okay? And so I've got my my nose, my eyes are there. Now that I've gotten somewhat of an idea of where my nose is, I can darken the parts on the bottom. Don't need to make the outside of the nostrils too dark though, because in fact I don't need a line all the way across it, because it sort of just is dark in that area. And then that it gives you that perspective already, gives you an understanding of it. Okay, so all right, so I'll leave that with my nose right now, and then we'll go on to the mouth. And the mouth, you notice that on the inside of the eye, when you come straight down, is about where the mouth should be. Now this is the top of the mouth right here, and so one thing that we want to do then is I'm going to give this cleft in your lip there, the cleft in your chin. That's that little part right here in the middle. That's your cleft. There's a little cleft above your mouth, and so I'm going to do that just to give myself perspective of where my mouth is going to be. Now this is the lip. This is the between the lips, and so you can see how the middle of the eye should come to about the edge of the mouth. All right, and so I'm going to do this. You see this curve right here? This one right here. This curve would be under here. All right. Now everybody's lips generally are shaped this way. Not every single person, but now I've got the edge is right here, so I know where my edge is. So I'm going to bring my mouth like that, and then do the same thing for this side. And so where my eye would be over here, which would be about right in the middle here, I'm going to do a curve for that